Hey, young voters! Welcome back to another video. How's it going? Hope it's going well. Today, I'm reviewing Untrumping America by Dan Pfeiffer. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name right. Dan Pfeiffer, somewhere around there. No disrespect, but I don't anticipate him watching this, so I'm just gonna hope that that's the correct pronunciation. Who's Dan Pfeiffer? Pfeiffer. Um, and what is a plan to make America a democracy again? Or sorry, untrumping America, a plan to make a democracy again. That's the little tagline that he has. Well, Dan Pfeiffer is a former Obama White House staffer. He was the senior advisor to Obama from 2013 to 2015 and a long time, operative in the Democratic Party. So, he's fairly well versed. He ran the 2008 campaign for Obama, or he helped run the 2008 campaign and the 2012 campaign, and now he is podcasting for Pod Save America with his co-host John Favreau, and then as well as John Lovett and Tommy Viter. And in 2015, he joined CNN as a political contributor. So yeah, he's got a pretty extensive resume, really impressive one too, and just a long-term Democratic operative, um, but a little bit more left-leaning than I'd guess probably the official party platform is. And what is Untrumping America? Well, it's a book that he wrote. It's, I believe, his second publishing, or he had a really popular one that really took off, called "Yes, We Still Can," and yeah. Anyways, so he wrote this book, and I read it, and yeah. So I'm gonna review it today, tell you what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. I guess a brief summary of like what he goes over and stuff like that. So yeah. All right, so let's get into it. The As the title sort of suggests, the book is sort of talking about post-Trump, what we can do post-Trump. Or actually, the book is kind of sort of split into two parts. Like it's talking about how we lost to Trump, what the Democratic nominee needs to do to beat Trump, and then what we need to do once Trump is in office. And then the other part of the book is like, how do we move past Trump, and what have Republicans done, and what are sort of the strategies of Republicans and what are the strategies of Democrats, and what needs to change about obviously the strategies about the Democrats and how we can exploit Republican strategies, as well as a general bit of political history, stuff like that. So that's, I guess, a good summary of the content of the book. Um, so yeah, very very nerdy, very very political. I like a couple of things about this book. One thing that I really like is because he's got like so much experience being a staffer and getting getting Obama elected and getting people elected. That's his job. So he really has a good grip on what what's going on, what's up with the whole elections business, all types of it. So I really like that he's very well versed in experience, and he's a good person to talk on some of the issues he talks about. Another thing that I like about the book is, since he's so experienced, he puts in these anecdotes about Obama, and what he did when he was working at different places. So they're like really good anecdotes, honestly. I really like appreciate it, and yeah, I mean, I appreciate the sorry, I appreciate the anecdotes, and it makes the book a lot more compelling. Well, as when I get into my criticisms of it, you'll see. But um, I really like it. I really like the background that he has, that he's able to give. I like the structure of the book. Honestly, yeah, never mind. I'm gonna put that in the negatives, I think. Um, some other things that I like about the book: it's short. It's only 6 hours. Or like if I read it on Audible. I listened to it on Audible, and that was 6 hours. So not like unmanageable. Um, Another thing that I like about it, I do like it's a good step away from more, I guess, leftist literature to look at what, like this guy's like he's really just a Democrat. Plain through and through Democrat with a little bit more lefty leanings. Um, but he really is just a Democrat. He has their talking points, some of them at least, and their lines of reasoning, and he's able to explain that well. And it's hard, honestly, to find Democrats who frame their convers. At least to me, like it's been a little bit of a refresher listening to him, seeing somebody thinking about the Democratic Party either as not like a blind supporter, but also not like constantly critiquing them for being anti-worker, anti um well, pro-capitalist and stuff like that. So um he really represents the mainstream thought of the Democratic Party, which I felt, for me myself personally, was missing for me. It's been a while since I've heard some actual real analysis done by a Democratic person that is not entirely uncritical of the Democratic Party, but also like has their mainline philosophy and thinking, and he doesn't attack them on stuff like that lefties do normally. Which everybody has their own opinions. It's been a while since I've heard some of these, so I appreciated that. I think it's not like something that you have to be super far out there to understand. So if you're not like a big leftist and you're just sort of a Democrat, liberal, maybe even conservative, although I don't know, no, I wouldn't recommend this to conservatives. And if you're one of those two and you like politics, um, this is a good book. This is definitely a good book. Um, I wanted to do it because I wanted to get back towards the main line, um, super standard thing. I just wanted to hear what they were saying, and possibly get back towards that. And well, I didn't exactly find that, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was reading some of the reviews of it earlier as well. Some people were saying he was going way too leftist. That's not true whatsoever. He's just like a comfortably Democrat. I would say he's more like, I wouldn't say an idealist because he's definitely not naive about what the Democrats are. He's worked with them for so long. It's sort of the version of Democrats that Democrats promise to voters is what he is presenting and talking about. So he's presenting that version. Um, where a lot of lefties might say like Republicans and Democrats, they're basically the same. They both, bow to their donors, and some of them do, and I don't think all of them do. Honestly, I think some of them do. The leadership certainly does, and you have a good portion that are just Democrats that are trying to do good, and then you have the left wing that has to run under the Democrats, but would probably be independent if they could. So honestly, yeah, I think the whole perspective whole perspective was something I was missing, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I guess I'll go into the negatives, and then I'll talk about who I can recommend it to and some of the other stuff. So negatives, I mentioned the how it's organized. It's a little confusing. It makes it sort of hard to remember in your head, all this stuff. I also didn't like that repeats himself sometimes, like literally for verbatim, like he repeated himself sometimes. It was a good reminder, but you got to do it in a way where if you want people to remember like most of the stuff in your book, you got to structure it in a clear way. And this, I like shade to the author, it just didn't come off that way. Um, I mean, obviously he tried his best. It just didn't work out because there's just so much to remember, so complicated. And the subjects are really conflicting sometimes because he goes from talking about the PRO Act to talking about how Republicans are doing voter suppression. Um, so yeah, I think the organization of it makes it a little bit hard to remember everything. Um, so yeah, I didn't love that as much. Another thing I didn't like so much was the narrator. It was he self narrated it, and that's cool. I like when authors do that. Although it just it seemed very rushed, and it didn't seem like he. It sounded like he just sat down and did it in a couple takes. Obviously, he took breaks, but like I don't think he really um, put a whole lot of effort into the Audible, which is fine. Completely fine. He's probably very busy, and it's just the Audible version, so it's not that big of a deal. His grammar is sometimes a little weird. I don't know if that was like what was in the print copy as well, or just how he ended up speaking it. So there's that. I would have preferred a professional narrator for this, but there's not. It did make the book a little hard to read at times and a little boring because he, like my voice, is very monotone. So am I, and I well, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess not very monotone, but I don't know. I just found myself getting a little bored. It's very, very technical, so that might have also been the thing. Even though I love politics, it was getting pretty technical. I also listened to the whole thing in like two sittings, so so that might have been my issue there. Not, yeah, maybe not reading half the book and then the other half of the book. Those would have probably probably helped a little bit, um, to not get bored. So yeah, the narration, I felt like, I for me, the like I had like Audible credits, so it didn't cost me anything. But I would have probably been a little disappointed if I paid $20 for the recording of the book. And yeah, so if you're on Audible and you generally listen to your books on Audible, forewarning there. Awesome. So next criticism of mine, was, hmm, I don't know. I guess I didn't agree with him ideologically on some points. Like he was talking about how Hillary was very progressive at some points. So I don't know, but I guess that's not really a real thing I can disagree with. Um, one thing I one thing I didn't like was, it just rolled off the tip of my tongue. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. All right, well, guess guess not. um, so as far as who I'd recommend it to, well, like I said before, Democrats, hardline Democrats, mainstream Democrats, some leftists, social Democrats, stuff like that. Them. Oh, here's my criticism. Um, Sorry to just flip up the pacing of the video here. He didn't really talk about Bernie or Warren that much. He talked about him a little bit, but he didn't really talk about the squad, Bernie or Warren. He did a little bit, but not, there were like more like passing mentions. And I really was interested in seeing his thoughts on that because he talks a lot about coalition building and building a big tent Democratic Party and stuff like that. So uh, I would have been interested in seeing what he thinks about the little bit more hard left of everything. But he wasn't like the type of Democrat to say like we need moderate Republicans. So it wasn't like out of disinterest for going towards the left. He was talking. In fact, he like specifically addressed that, saying, "No, we need to get new voters, and we need to do pass progressive policies that they're interested in, like the $15 minimum wage, stuff like that." So there's like there's those like progressive points, but then he talks about like how Hillary is actually really progressive. So I don't know. It was a little weird. Another criticism that I had, and this is like literally just me personally, it unless you're like constantly watching politics, I personally didn't learn too much from this book. Besides all the stuff about staffing, and Obama and that stuff, that was all new to me, obviously. Um, but the actual things that he discussed in the book were more of just a refresher, which I was fine with. But if you watch like several hours of political coverage a day, like I do, first of all, um, please contact me because I'd like to get in touch with you. But it's stuff that I sort of already knew. I doubt most people watching will have the same experience as me. Honestly, I watch way too much political coverage, but it's stuff that I already knew, had that in the back of my head. But I enjoyed it because it was a refresher, anyways. Um, and I enjoyed the perspective, the different perspective, because obviously I'm getting sort of the more left wing perspective, where the liberal perspective is a little bit lacking. And I think I'm going to go back towards looking at the liberal perspective a little bit more because I enjoyed it. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you watch a lot of political coverage, and you know a lot about what's going on politically for the past 4 years, um, and especially the last two, you might not get as much out of this book. You might not get as much out of this book, honestly, um, unless you're looking for that liberal perspective. So, all right, going back to who I'd recommend it for. Um, Hardline Democrats, major liberals, 100%. And this is only if you're like really interested in politics, though. This isn't like a hey, I sort of care about politics. What is it? Who's the Democratic Party? Who's that? What's going on? This is sort of like if you're like medium into it, I'd say medium into it. You're like, okay, I want to get interested. I'm checking out, especially if you're considering like political science, working like as a career in politics. This was really cool. Because that's something that's sort of in the back of my head, and all like him talking about his experiences of staffing and stuff like that really sort of opened my mind to some possibilities. So I enjoyed it for that reason. Uh, but yeah, if you're like medium into politics, you know some of the stuff, but you don't have a whole lot of knowledge, and you're looking for a more liberalish perspective, this is the book for you. Definitely the book for you. We're talking about Trump, what Trump was, what Trump represented, some political history, and then it goes on to talk about how the presidential candidate can win. This was obviously written before Joe Biden was nominated, and then talking about like what will require to win, and what do we need to do in the future after they win, and some laws that need to be repealed. And he talks about the courts a lot. That was something I didn't know too much about, and so yeah, I would definitely recommend to that group. Leftists, I would probably recommend to you guys, because the broader left does have, in my opinion, a problem with coalition building, and um, we a big question is in the Democratic Party and in our own leftist circles, are we going to work with the Democrats? What are we going to do about them? And I think it's probably pretty essential to sort of learn about what the system is for them, because they have rules, and as leftists, especially online, we can just say like, okay, Joe Biden needs to pass the $15 minimum wage now, and Nancy Pelosi needs to do this, and Nancy Pelosi needs to do that, and all this stuff. And but there's rules that they abide by, and there's conventions that they apply, and they have their establishment, and it's hard to get knowledge of that. And the only way to really do it is either to get experience or talk to somebody who's in the establishment. And obviously, we can't get experience because that's very difficult, and then, we obviously legally can't right now. Um, or we have to talk to somebody, and this is a book, but you get what I mean. So I think we need to learn about the establishment. We need to learn their rules to, if we want to work together with them, and I do. We need to know what their game is, what they value, and what they're doing in order to work together. And you know what, if you don't like the Democrats, know your enemy. There you go. So I think this is a good book for leftists to read. Not the best, but a good one. Conservatives, I mean, like, I don't think there's anything for you in here. Half of it is bashing conservatives. The other half of it is talking about democratic policy procedure. Um, it- I don't even think this would apply to Know Your Enemy, honestly. This is just like, it's stuff that they broadcasted before, but it doesn't even matter because I feel like Democrats and Republicans are on kind of different political fields at the moment. So what they're doing doesn't matter too much because unless the Democratic Party like really starts winning, paying attention right now is not overtly necessary. Much rather you pay attention to what's going on in your party, because that is a whole thing that I'm happy I don't have to deal with in my in the in the in the Democrats, because if what was happening to the Democrats was happening to, or what was happening to the Republicans right now is happening to the Democrats, that would just be crazy insane. So I probably wouldn't recommend this book to conservatives unless you really want to read it. Obviously, I can't stop you. Um, I don't really have any recommendations for you guys. So I'm gonna stop right there because that's what I wanted to cover. I'm just trying to think. That's probably it. So there'll be a video for you to watch here that YouTube thinks you'll like. There'll be a playlist of the left stuff here. There'll be a subscribe button here, or it might be flipped and inverted because cameras. And I will wish you a good day. And by I didn't mention this at the start. I was gonna, obviously not in my usual recording location, so I couldn't have the nice camera, but I did get the mic. So there you go. Apologies. I will be back probably in my next video. I'll be back in my normal recording area. So I am gonna wish you farewell. Have a great day, awesome night, wherever you are. Just all right. Goodbye, and I'm gonna end this now before I continue rambling.